Hello, everyone. Welcome back to VOH Academy. So, in today's session, we are going to learn one of the most powerful skills in Linux. Just like every VOH session, we're going to be dealing with a real support ticket. And today's ticket is talking about you just got this in your mail or your ticket queue. And it says, we just had an incident on a production light test server. There are 50,000 lines in the engine's asset log from the last hour, and someone needs to find every request that returned a server error, count how many came from each IP, and pull out just the timestamp and status codes. Doing this by eye is not an option. This is exactly what Grep, sed, and awk exists for. So these three commands are actually Linux commands that we use to go through logs. Like you see that the log that we're talking about, the engine's asset log. So it has 50,000 lines of logs that you need to go through. And this was generated in the last hour. So this is not something you have to go through, by eye. So that's why the ticket also tells you that by eye is not even an option. So your task is to find out which request failed. So most likely what happened is that your manager is trying to find a server error. So they're trying to identify which user caused the error and give a report about it. So what you'll be learning is what regular expressions are. So we have grep, which is to search test with grep using pattern, and then find and replace test with FED sed, and then awk does extraction and reshaping of columns of data. Then how to chain these fields together with pipe. Remember the pipe? That's this symbol right there. How to chain it together and how to apply all of this to a realistic log file. So what's actually a regular expression? Before you touch any command, you need to understand something called regular expression, often shortened to regit. To regit, right here, regit. A regular expression is simply a pattern. It's not really a specific word, but a description of what you're looking for. An example could be, we have a list of examples of regit symbols right here. Instead of saying find the word error 500, you can say something like find any word that starts with error followed by number. So you see that it makes it more flexible. So these are the symbols, these are their meanings, and this is where the examples will be used, and this is where they actually what they will actually give you as output. That's the matches that will actually give you as output. And these are the tools that we use. Grep, sed, and awk. So it's another way to think about it is to think about C grep as a tool that finds, sed as a tool that edits, and awk as a tool that extracts and computes. Okay, so now let's get into our lab. That's what we're here for, right? Okay, okay, so it might look a little bit odd and awkward as we go along, but one thing you have to realize is that these commands actually come with, you get used to them with usage, not just watching tutorials. That's why this lab helps you to actually practice using some of these commands. So we are going, instead of downloading a real production application log, we are going to just generate one ourselves. Okay, so this we are going to let's just go ahead and start here. So let's create. First of all, I'm gonna create a folder for session A. 0 and inside that code, I'm going to say this from here. So let me see the still in there, right? So I'm just going to copy the music to put this multiple code. And then I'm going to save it into the test lab. Okay, so now I'm inside this folder. I'm going to create this file, access the floor. So I simply copy this, stop at where you see EOF, end of file. We've explained this previously in our former system. So you copy the spaces of the command line and go ahead and create the file for you. So now if we do ls, you see the access log file, local access, so the same content. So we are going to use this command, which is tell us how many lines exist in this environment. How many lines exist in this log file? And to do that, we do wc -l access log. So it's telling us it's 15 lines. That's the number of lines. So you can also do cat, which we already did, the cat access using the tab complete to complete the name of the file. And you see that it gives us exactly what is pasted in there. And this is looks identical to what you see on a real Linux server. Okay, so let's move on to part two. So that's part one. Let's move on to part two. So for part two, we are going to be okay. So before we move on to part two, I just wanted to take a moment and explain the log, the file, right? So here, let's look at the first line, just one of the lines. So let's go to look at one of the lines. This right here is the client IP. This is the client IP. And this, the second one is the get request. So the client IP, and of course the date, the time, and then the get request. This is the HTTP request method. And this is the page requested /home. That's the page that's requested. And then this is the protocol. This is the protocol that was used to make that request. And this is the status code 200. Remember, 200 is success. So, and then this is the response time of that request. So, if you understand one line, you understand the 50,000 lines that the ticket is talking about, because all the lines are basically saying the same, has the same column. So that's that. So now let's move on to part two. And we should click here on my screen here. So part two, we are finding lines using the command grep. So we are going to be using grep. So grep, remember, searches pattern. It just searches text pattern, and we've used that previously. So now we are going to be pasting and running this command. And it's simply saying grep every occurrence of this 500 in this file. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. Grep access log, and there you go. So every line that has 500 is showing us every line that contains 500. Okay, so the next is to let's count how many lines. Let's do grep of C. So we could also use different iterations of using the grep command. So initially we ran the show us every instance of 500 in this file. We could also tell it to count the occurrence of 500 within this file by using the -c flag, and it tells us it's 4, right? So we could also say show us the matching line and also tell us their line number. So for that, we use the flag n. But we also need to tell it, give it the right here. You need to still give it the test that you're searching for. So we see where it's telling us the line. So on line 4, line 6, line 9, and line 15. That adds up to the number of lines that we got here, which you can see count. Okay, so now we move on to using find the line that has server errors. Okay, status code 500 through 599, and use a character class to match any digit that starts with 5. So to do that, we are going to be using this command right here. So let's copy that. Okay, so here you go. So now it's not just giving us 500, it's also giving us 502, it's giving us 503. So that makes the line now, let's see, we copy that same command and we add the C flag. See, the number is no longer 4, now C, because we added the ones that had 502 and the ones that had 503. All right, so next we are saying count how many matches instead of showing them, which is what we just did by adding the C flag right here. Now we also say show line numbers along with matches. So you simply just switch out the C flag and put N, and it gives you the lines where each of those occurrences happen. Okay, so this, let's also use this command here, show lines along with matches. So let's copy that. So it's showing us lines along with matches, but now we give it 401 and or 403. So that's what this is about, this symbol. So you're showing us 401 and 403. Okay, so that's the this sign right here. So it means or, this fine line between with either 401 or 403. So you also can use the invert match, which is -v. So with the -v, we are telling it to show us lines that do not contain 200. So lines that do not contain 200. So that's what it's showing us right here. So lines that don't contain, remember 200 is okay. That means it's a success, it's success. HTTP request success. So now we're saying show us the ones that do not have 200. So that's what we just showed us there. So most likely these are the ones that have the error we are looking at, looking for. So then another one is to use the -I flag for case insensitive stuff. So let's copy that and paste. So it's saying all the depth we are searching for this depth. So it's case insensitive. Like if you look okay, if you look at the results that we show, you see that we get it all capital. But what we're searching for, what we put is GET small letters. So we say ignore the case sensitivity, but you know that Linux is case sensitive. So let's do that without the I to see what happens. So that will make more sense. So you see, it's not showing us anything. Why? Because if there's no inside the log, inside the file, there's no depth in small letters. So that's why we have to put the dash I here. So another way we could try this out is to make it fast and see if it gives us this as well. Okay, so now let's move to using the extended regex. So the E stands for extended regular expression. It lets us write cleaner regex. So an example is the get and put, which means find get or put. This command right here. So let's clear the screen and we can run it. So here you go. So it's giving us 500 and everything in between that has 500. So you see the 502, you see the 503. Then let's run this one. So you see that these commands, you can actually iterate them, right? You can mix and match depending on what you're looking for. The same thing. So the same way we use this, that's the same way this. But now is a mix of get and put, not just get. Remember when we ran it the other time up here, it was only getting us the get request. But now it's getting us get and put lines inside that file. Okay. So now let's move on to part three. So for part three, we are going to be finding lines with server errors and then extracting only the IP using -o, right? So now you see the extracting. Remember in our previous session where we had to use this pipe. So pipe says run this command and then the result of this command pass it on to this command. Okay, so that's what the pipe is saying. So I also put an explanation of what the pattern says. So for this particular portion of the command, it means from the start of the line, match one or more characters that are digits or dots, exactly an IPv4 address. So we are telling it to get this inside this file, from this file, get this from this file, and then give us, pass it on here, and get us the IP addresses. Okay, so let's run the command. It will be a bit clearer from the result that the command will give us. So here you go. It's giving us the IP address. Let's go back up here. Okay. If you look, you see that this right here gave us all of this, but we don't need all of this. We only need the IP address. So now the type is there to say we passed on this after running this command. So first of all, executed this and then passed it on using the pipe into this stage. And then we only extracted this portion, the IP address. You look, you see that this IP address is match this one right there. Okay. I hope that makes sense. So now let's move on. Okay, so the next command is saying count how many error requests came from each IP. Okay, so this is actually what answers the question that this ticket is asking us using this command. So the breakdown of this command is this grep -3 to find the error lines, which is inside this particular file. That's the first command. Then pass it on. So the pipe is actually just like handing a piece of paper to the next engineer, like a handover to the next command. So find this, pass pass it on. So any line that contains 500 or 500, 502, 503, pass it on to this, generate the IP addresses, sort, count. So it's actually right here. So sort them. So identical IPs sit next to each other. Then unique dash C flag count consecutive duplicates of it. Then sort R dash RN sort the count numerically with the highest number first. So it's what explains what each of the command does. So it's passing on, and then the result or the output from this command passes on to the next, passes on to the next. That's what the pipe command does. So let me copy the whole command and paste it. So here you go. There you go. So it's sorted it didn't only just bring up the IP addresses. It also sorted it and it took up the ones that occurred multiple occurrences, right? So it took like this unique that's C, counting consecutive duplicates. So it's telling us that 10.0.0.5 appeared four times. That's the number you're seeing right here. One, two, three, four times. So in total, it's only three IPs that give this error. All right. So let's move on to the next portion, the part four, where we'll be using the sed command. So unlike grep command, the sed command changes text, right? So it changes text, it edits text. It processes the text line by line and can transform it. So let's go ahead and do that. Let me clear. So here we are telling it to find and replace. So the S here in this command it says for substitution, find and replace. So let's run this. So before now, let's actually start access log. Okay, so if you look at access log, you see that before now there's nothing like fetch. There's no fetch request here. The HTTP request is only get and put that and delete. So now we want to substitute all the get for fetch. That's what sed does. So now we copy this see what happens. All the get requests are changed to fetch, right? All the so it substituted all the get with fetch. Okay, then but it hasn't affected what is actually in this file because if we run cat access log, you see that the get is still there. So if you wanted to actually do it, that it actually goes in and substitute, you have to run it with the dash I flag. But you have to be careful with that because once you run that, it will actually go inside this file and actually do that substitution. Okay, so let's continue. So if we also want to, so using the G flag, it means all global. G means global. So substitute all, like this is substitute zero with O. So head dash three. Let's run the command. So it substituted, see, the zeros, like this 10 is no longer 10, it's 1 and O. 1 and O. So all the zeros have been substituted with the letter O. So it looks different, right? So, and then it's just showing, and then we pass it on, and the next command says just show us three lines, dash head dash three, the first three lines. That's what happened here, showing us only the first three lines. So globally, that means all. Okay, that's what the G is doing for us here. So another command we can do with another command we can do, another thing we can do with sed. We can do a lot of things with sed. Yeah, it's a very powerful tool. So we can delete lines matching the pattern. So any line that has this, delete it from this access log. But remember, there's no dash I flag, so it only shows you the output right here on the terminal. This is actually go inside the access log and actually implement that permanently unless you pass the dash I flag. So let me just copy that. Okay, so you went ahead and deleted every line that has full, that had full. That's what the D. The D means delete. Delete lines matching a pattern. Okay. So now we can also say print only lines matching this pattern 500. Is similar to Grep. You can also use it to do the things you can do with Grep. But like I said, without the dash I, it's basically not really doing, it's just showing you something on the terminal. To actually have it implemented, you need to pass the dash I flag. And for that, we are going to be actually doing it. So let's, instead of messing with our log file, let's create a topic called backup.log. So we do CP, you copy access log to a new location, and we call it access dash backup.log. This is safe to do so that you can actually play with the set command and retain the content of this particular file. Okay, so now um, we are going to be playing with what is in here so that in case we mess it up, we can just use the backup and restore whatever that's here. So now we are going to say we are using the dash I flag, like I said, and we're going to use the S, substitute this pattern with this. So before we do that, let's actually cut access log, and then we pass that command. Okay. So now now here you see that every line that had http slash 1.1 now shows http dot slash 1.1 hyphen text, which is the command that we gave before. So we say substitute this protocol with this. We just affix dash hyphen text. So now we actually went in and did it because we passed the dash I text. So that's what the dash I does. So now if we do tap, we actually started the whole thing. Really. So we see scroll only the first three lines. The first three lines. You see that also here. So let's restore back our old what we actually had before. So to do that, we just copy access dash backup into access log. Yes. So use a prompt to this overwrite what is in here. Say yes, overwrite it. So if we are to run the command again, you see that what we had before is back. The dash text has gone because we overwrote what what we did with the test command. Okay, now let's move on to part 5, where we'll be using the awk command. So the awk command treats each line as a row of columns separated by white spaces by default. Okay, so let me clear my screen here. I'll quickly. So awk treats every line as a spreadsheet instead of rows and columns. So we have the dollar one, dollar sign one, dollar sign two. So these represent columns, and zero means the whole line. Okay. So let's run this command. So this simply is saying print the first column. So which is the IP address in this particular file. So is let's actually pass so that we actually see the difference. Mm. Okay, access log. Because five. So you see that that's what we taken with awk. Using awk, we only say print the first column is right here. Okay, so let me actually okay. So Go ahead. So for the second command, you are telling it to print, you are fixing something here. NF means number of fields. So if there are 10 columns, NF is going to be 10. So NF-1 means the second to last column. The second to last column. That's what that means. So, and then to print, let's first print the IP address and the status code together. That's what this command is going to do. Let's run that. So you see, it gave us two columns, which is one the IP address, and the second one is the second to last. So this is the last, and this is the second to last. So 200, the status code 401. Yeah. So let me actually run this way. So show our access log. So we show our access log, and then we run this command. Pipe it S51. So you see that it gives us the IP address and then the status code. Okay? So that's what this second part of the command is saying, number of fields. Okay, so now we also have fixed another extension to the command. So now this is saying print only lines where the status code second to last field starts with 5. So this is what this portion is saying. So let's run that and then we pipe it to 5 lines. Yeah, there you go. So now if you see, look at it, you see that it took out this particular some of the lines because we told it to only give us the ones that where the status code starts with 5. So these ones right here only are 200. So it's only showing us 500. The ones with 500 because we specified what the status code to start with, which is 5. So that's what it means to us here. Okay. So next we could also do count. So we basically do a lot of calculation. We can do a lot of calculation using the awk command. Count how many requests each IP made using the awk. Awk's built-in associative array. So using an array, we run this command. Copy. So here you go. So you give the IP and it's also counting it. Okay. So it's giving us if we were to do access cat access log, you see that the occurrences of P2 they appeared 4 times. Then the appearance of 192.168.1.25 2 times. So that's what this command is. Okay. So another way is you can also do summation, sum of the response sizes for all the last column of all requests. So you see how powerful this command could actually be. The total byte 5,500. So it really does quite a lot. You can also do averages. So you can actually just iterate it and use it to do multiple things, play around with it. Like I say, the more you practice with it, the more you get used to it and you can use it to do a lot more things. Okay. So now let's actually get to our ticket. We get to the ticket that we were given. So we have 3 questions. And the first question said, show all server errors. Show all server error lines. So to do that, you're going to use Grep and we run that. And this is the, so remember the 200 is the ones that say the error, they are not errors. They are the OK, HTTP, return OK code, status code. So you have to use any line that return 500 is an error line. Return anything that started with 5, that's not 200. That's an error line. Okay, then the tax 2 says count of errors per IP sorted highest first. So from highest to lowest, which IP generated the most errors from highest to lowest. So we are going to use a combination, say the pipe. So the pipe is a combination of commands, and there you go, telling us that three IPs in total, and this IP actually give error 4 times. This one gives once, and this gives one. Okay, then there are task number 3. It says extract the timestamp and status code. So for that, we are going to use a combination of grep and awk or grep and sed using the pipe command. So we just need the timestamp and status code. Like I said, you can mix and match with this command. So there you go. The timestamp and the status code. So let's try using a cell. One command. So using cell, it actually give us the what we needed. Okay, so this is the timestamp and this is the status code, which answers our the last question that we had on our ticket. And now let's quickly apply this same technique to a real log file, by installing Nginx on our server. So for that, we need to quickly SSH into the server external. Let me get the IP address. So, so we actually want to run this on a live, simulate a live production of what we want to do. Because I've been not running from my local system, but this could also have been um, a production site. So, let's say the engine, and then generate traffic using command. Okay. Let's start command. See another something here, which is non-resistant. Okay, and then let's use the log. Okay, so you see we have the just like we did previously. So this is the IP address. It's actually an IP address, and then this is the protocol there, the HTTP protocol there, and this is HTTP, and then this the website or the site that was accessed, and then this is the response. 200 is okay. This was the first command that was run here, and then you see 404, which is the error that we also generated using this particular command here. So now let's actually practice. So now let's wait for 404. This is our error file. Access log. You see, saying that um, one non-existent mind that will run. Okay, let's quickly run it. Okay, so you run the sudo, the grep command again. You see that it's now two lines, but it's just running the second time right here. So we let's count the request by IP. So the same exact thing we did in my local machine. That's what we are now doing in your server. Right? Okay. There you go. So three lines. That's just what it is. Three lines. It's counting three lines for us. That's run the IP, like I said, is an IPv6, so that's why it's showing up like that. And that is that. So this is something that if you master or if you learn, and it is something that you're going to be using, because of course you're going to be told to check maybe a server that went down, or even if it's off, you might be asked to find out something inside the log. So these tools help you to actually read logs, make it easier to read logs, extract things inside the log file, and you know figure things out. So, of course, go ahead and document what you just learned in your own words. That way, it's easier for you to understand next time. And thank you for coming, going through this journey with me, and stay laughing, of course. Thank you, and bye bye.